G'day all, Simon here, Explosive Action, and I'm back for the 2023 Mancave Media Room Tour video. I do one of these every year, and this year is no exception, so come with me as we take a look at all the Blu-rays and all the metal vinyl and everything else that you find in my man cave. So we start here at the front door, which we're seeing from the inside, as you can see, is decorated by a man cave sign I was gifted and is honoured by 4 Steven Seagal posters. I got these fairly recently and they're nice and small and can fit in this corner very happily, so he keeps all the riffraff out of this room with his explosive slap foo. This is basically the TV comedy shelf. It is mostly British comedy TV series, something that I don't talk about too much but I'm a huge fan of. 70s, 80s and 90s classic British sitcoms, and then some Australian shows that are also good, handful of American sitcoms, stand-up comedy and all that kind of stuff. Taking a look from this angle looks kind of boring because there's a bunch of boxes, but this is all my packing material for posting out things that I sell, and it's also surplus, so all kinds of DVDs that I've retired that need to leave, or CDs that I'm looking to trade on. They all live in those boxes and bags. There looks to be a lot, but there's actually not that many there. And this half, as you can tell, we're actually in a garage, so the man cave is a garage, and this first shelf here is all the boring garage stuff, so we won't talk about that too much. But what I will say is that you can see, if you go back and look at my previous 2022 video, all of the shelving around here has changed. That is, all of the garage type shelving has been replaced. I've got these nice cool metal frame things that are much more sturdy, and we just kept replacing them over the year until they were all replaced. So let's take a look at some of the more exciting things that I'm using them for. So on this first shelf you can see straight ahead in front of me some Japanese VHS. I love my Japanese VHS collection. It doesn't grow very much because lots of things are actually coming out on DVD and Blu-ray that I was never expecting, but it is still quite the collection of mostly, I'd say 80% Philippine and Italian jungle explosive action films. All my Teddy Page films are here, all the even my old Bruno Mattei stuff that technically this can be retired, but there's no way in hell I'm going to give away or box up something like my tape of Robo War. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But you know, all kinds of good stuff here. David Pryor films that are not on any other format besides VHS. And I love the Japanese VHS format, as I've talked about before. The tapes are just better quality and they're often in widescreen. So one of the new changes I made with these shelves is acknowledging that they are so deep, it didn't make much sense to put DVDs in a regular fashion on them. So I got these tubs, and I put stuff in the tubs that I don't return to that often, or I don't want to actually show off that much. They don't need to be, you know, spine out and forward facing, but things that I want to keep and things that I do watch. So I printed out these rather cool, I have to say, little labels to say what you get in a tub. This one here, obviously anime, so I've got a tub's worth of Japanese anime and similar kinds of things. I have a bunch of TV boxes that are for not comedy TV series, so science fiction TV series, some things like that. They all make their way into these boxes. On the top here I've got 2 indie horror boxes. Now these are loosely organized. We've got essentially this stuff here is all shot on video. This is all the Monster Pictures, the Australian label. That's all the Monster Pictures I've got. Some more shot on video stuff here, and then I've got some indie horror directors. So there's some Brian Paulin and that kind of stuff are all in here. So to show you what I'm talking about with these tubs, let's just take a look in one of these here. You can see they fit 2 rows very neatly, and it's pretty easy for me to find stuff. I know basically where everything is. And as you can see, a bit of a theme here with indie horror. A lot of the gore films around at the back here, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty straightforward to find things for me in here. And yeah, I quite like having these tubs. So moving down from the Japanese VHS, we have science fiction television. science fiction box sets as well. That's pretty much what all of these TV tubs here contain, things like Stargate and all that kind of stuff. I've got a few box sets here that are all science fiction TV, Twilight Zone, Battlestar, Outer Limits. I've got some science fiction movie box sets here, your usual Indiana Jones and Star Wars, Alien, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, this stuff is all pretty frequently accessed, so I make them quite easy to get to here. And the bottom of this shelf is part of my record collection, so I'll talk about that a bit more detail when we get to the start of it. But yeah, this is the end of my record collection here, so it's all a little bit out of left to right order in terms of all the shelves when they're put together, but it all makes sense to me. So this end cap here on the corner is mostly all vintage vinyl, so I'll tell you about what I mean here. This first tub here, if you go and look at my channel, you'll find a video I did about the Firebox, which is the one tub of records that if the house was burning down, I would collect, and that is this tub. So this is where all my priceless absolute favorites are. So, you know, you can get a general idea as we go through them here. This is all original pressing stuff, things that would be an absolute pain to try and get again. So that's what this tub is. This tub here has become, for the moment at least, the inbox, because I was getting so many things, leaving piles around was getting annoying. So yeah, this is all stuff that's come in recently in the last couple of months. There's a bit of a sneak peek. And things I'm still listening to, so it's also become a bit of a rotation box, and I've been finding that very helpful because I've been not so much playing a record, putting it on the shelf. I've been playing it and then going to the tub, playing another one, and then going back to that first record, and that's been really, really good. Over here in the corner is my small 7-inch collection. I'm not big on the format, so I don't have many of these things, but what I do have I consider pretty good quality. So yeah, don't make it a mission to try and pick up more of these things, but I do have a few. Underneath those tubs is the A to Z of, I guess, OG press vinyl. So all of that 80s stuff is down here, and a handful of 90s as well. All of my first pressings or very early pressings, I have them separate from everything else in the collection. This was something I wanted to do when I got this set of shelves. This is a IKEA thing, not a Kallax, but it's very similar style. And yeah, all A to Z, so it's all going to be backwards here, showing you from this angle, but yeah, you got to trust me that there's some pure gold in here, things that we're going to be pulling out. What have I got here? Oh, I picked out a Dragon album. I think they're from Poland from memory. So yeah, this is all the A to Z of that stuff. Down here I've got basically my very small non-metal vinyl collection, which is not many. And then I got some box sets that I've managed to get. This is really, really good. I'm not sure if I've ever shown it before, but the Vault of Horror Gates of Hell trilogy soundtrack. It's basically all the soundtrack from the 3 Fulci Gates of Horror films, as they're loosely connected. And yeah, that's where all this kind of stuff is. The Zeisma box set, very cool old disembowelment box there, which actually needs to be turned around apparently. That was one I got for a good price. In here, this unfortunately in this plastic bag is the Paysage de Verre Im Wald box set, and the reason it's in there, well, as you can see, this is very close to the ground, isn't it? And that box is made of cardboard, and at one point a very hungry slug attached itself to that box and took off some of the artwork, and that was very annoying, so it now lives in a bag. And then I got here compilations and things, so you know, here's your Grind Crusher and all that kind of stuff. And as I showed this probably a year ago now, the pretty awesome Death is Just the Beginning Volume 3 VHS and CD box set. No vinyl in that, it's just the right size. Over here, we're moving from music to movies. This is my, I showed these once, I think last year. Some really interesting movie rental Bibles, you could say. These are catalogues, or basically encyclopedias of all Australian VHS releases, and it was called the Video Source. Great artwork on the front there. So I got this from an ex-video store and was gifted these, which is really cool. Basically just tells you all of the tapes that you could buy in Australia to rent in your video store in the 1980s. So yeah, nice little thing to have there, and the other ones next to it are all kind of similar. And just for completeness sake, so you can see this side of the room, this is pretty much technically garage stuff. It's all just odds and ends and tools and things, so not very exciting to talk about. So this is a view you might be familiar with. This is the background to majority of my videos, and I would be sitting in my chair round about here, and that's the turntable and the now playing record, which happens to be Alter's Paramnesia, which I've been spinning. And yeah, so on these shelves they've had a bit of a readjustment lately. So up here we've got some of the big box sets. The giant Gamma box set sits there proudly next to the speaker, and all of this here is Sci-Fi Channel. I'm a big fan of Sci-Fi Channel films, or the original Sci-Fi Channel films that they made. And there's a few Asylum films below it as well. They are not as good as a Sci-Fi Channel film, but you know, there is enjoyment to be had anyway. And one thing you're also going to notice as we go through is I've started putting these labels on things. I got one of those little label printers, very cheap, like $20, and yes, I started printing them out and labeling shelves. So this Sci-Fi Channel shelf you will see an overview of sometime possibly in February, as I'm going to do it all again. And then on the back here is CDs. So this is around about N through to Z. It's all quite tightly packed. There's always room if I need to make more room, so not an issue there. And this is all of the hi-fi gear, which I won't go into detail. If you want to know more about my gear, go search my audiophile video, which I did back in December, I think it was. Go check that out. I can tell you all about my gear. This is where the A to Z vinyl commences for the non-original pressing stuff. So I have a bit of a delineation between stuff that's up to, you know, 1992, 3, you know, golden age OG presses, through to stuff I just buy now, new releases or reissues, which I try not to do that often. But yeah, pretty much everything on this shelf and that shelf is all modern release metal. So over here below the half-buried Gates of Hell poster, we have a couple of box sets. I've got my Phantasm box set, which has got the really cool ball with all the hooks on it. I've got my Wolf Creek stubby holder, which is still so hilarious. That's why it's got pride of place there. I've still got my Carcass itinerary from 1992, which is really cool. The Greasy Strangler, what a great, hilarious film that is, in the pink beanie Greasy that I won from the premiere in Sydney of that. And behind it we've got the Alfred Hitchcock box set, so lots of things there on top of that speaker. Below we have the CDs, so this is all pretty much A to well, N of my CD collection. It starts here on the left. If I need to get to the stuff on the bottom sides or the internal sides here, I just wheel them out. They're on wheels, it's not hard. And yeah, that's all the CDs. So I'm not just a record guy. In fact, I started as a CD guy, and I pretty much buy lots of CDs still to this day. Flipping over to the other side of the room now, we can see my awesome Robo-War poster, which is framed. I absolutely love it. And the relatively new Strike Commando video store poster, which sits below it there. This ladder here is mounted to the wall. It's part of the house, takes you into the manhole, which is not very exciting, but I've got some posters behind it and to the side of it. And this ancient Total Recall plaque. It's a wooden plaque I got from a charity store back when I was about 14, and I've lugged it from house to house ever since. It's just a really cool item. Over here we have the Doctor Who collection. I don't really talk about Doctor Who that much on this channel, but it's my all-time favorite TV series. It's always been something that I've enjoyed as a child and still do to this day. So this is all the classic era up to 1989. I don't own physically any of the new stuff. I quite like a lot of it, but I don't own any of it physically. Below we have some more labeled tubs. Things that I've had to put in little boxes. My video CDs, I have a nice box here of video CDs or Hong Kong films, and a second box here of VCDs. These boxes at the moment are different directive collections because it just made sense and I had the boxes. So the Stephen King stuff in here, and all the Tarantino stuff in here because I hadn't had enough. Down here I've got documentaries and some of my custom Blu-rays that I make for myself. Now sitting down, this is the view of my workstation. So I work from home most days of the week, and I have both my home computer, which is down here, and I have my work laptop usually there, but it is currently in my bag because I'm going to the office tomorrow. But I can easily joggle between both systems by pressing this little yellow button on the KVM, and I can switch between two computers and use the same keyboard and mouse, which is very, very exciting. Yeah, so I do all my video editing here, and yeah, anything I need to do on the home computer I do on this setup here. And beneath it I've got, oh, there's the label printer that I picked up, which is awesome, this Dymo thing, worth its weight. And I've got down here a VCR and a not currently working LaserDisc player. It's got a problem with the power supply. I use these in conjunction with this guy here, which is the Canopus ADVC 300 video capture device. So yeah, that's how I can encode tapes and LaserDiscs onto DVD. Well, some of you may remember a while ago I had a very good haul of vintage Pulp sci-fi novels. I picked them up from the local markets. I got bags and bags full. I've picked up a few more since. I don't have bookshelves that I can fit in this room, so I have these tubs, which is very handy. I just put them here under the desk, and when I need to change books I just pick the next one out, and yeah, that's where I keep all of these. This little shelf on the end is for Mediabooks and other such fancy releases, mostly all German Mediabooks, and a couple of Steelbooks down there, and some Hardboxes. So yeah, I decided to keep all these things together. If you're going to have a bookshelf for something, you may as well have Mediabooks. So if we look behind the workstation, this is, and has been for some time, the Action DVD and Blu-ray shelf. Part 2, the other side, obviously on the opposite end, we will have a look at in a minute. But yeah, this continues on the Action Blu-rays through to there, and then Action DVDs. When we get to around about here, I've put all of the PM Entertainment action films together, because I've got quite a lot of those and I do enjoy the PM Entertainment films. Then over there and continuing down we have war films, and that goes down through here, and then on the end there we have the post-apocalyptic DVDs and Blu-rays. Yes, and over here is my Garfield phone, which you've seen in a couple of videos now. I wanted one of these since the 80s, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have one now. Yes, he works. I have plugged him in. He does work on the phone line still. Beneath we have a couple of box sets and collections. I put the Blind Dead coffin box there, and then Dawn of the Dead, and all the other Dead films I've got, including the Evil Dead series, just putting there on the end because they need the place to go. And a nice Blood Rush poster beneath that. So beneath Garfield we've got a few director collections here. This is all my Cirio Cantiago films, and a few ones on top here as well. Doing quite well with that collection. Moving on down here we've got all my David Pryor films. Doing quite well with those as well, though there's still quite a few that are on tape only. And down here is all the Teddy Page films, which are progressively being replaced from VHS to DVD, but still going to be quite a few on tape only. So on the other side of that area, we have the cassette drawers. I've managed to get 6 of these things. I've always liked these 80s style cassette drawers, and I do still listen to and buy audio cassettes. Not as often as previous years, but I do like buying demo tapes, and yeah, I try not to buy full-length albums. I think for me, cassettes work best as demos, compilations, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I do like having these tape drawers. And beneath the tape drawers we've got some Blu-rays. So this is basically collections of things, so I think the picture is telling you everything you need to know. You know, Complete Exorcist, Fly, the Hannibal Lecter films, Leprechaun, Omen, Pulse, you know, all that kind of stuff lives in here. Goes down into here. I've got all the Texas Chainsaw movies. I've got a space here for number 2. I've got a different edition coming. And then it sort of turns into multi-packs and things. So these are doubles. These are all the Shout Factory doubles and some Dark Force Entertainment doubles, some umbrellas. Over on this side here we have essentially all of the Vinegar Syndrome stuff that stands alone. If it's a Vinegar Syndrome title that makes more sense to go on the action shelf, I'll put it over there. If it's part of a series, I might mix it in with something else, but for the most part the Vinegar Syndrome stuff still currently has its own little grouping here. This may not be how it lives forever, but it is for the moment. Got the VSA titles on top, and then we go down through here through all the Vinegar Syndrome slipcover editions, and over here is where the partner labels kick off that I've got quite a few of now. And below that we have all of my Andy Sedaris films, which is just quite a ridiculous amount, and then a few I guess I've just thrown in some other collections and multi-packs that feel like they belong. You've kind of got the Return of the Ninja, Enter the Ninja, that kind of stuff over there. You've got the Day of the Panther, Strike of the Panther above it, and the Wakilia Wood Super Action set. I don't know, it all kind of made sense to me at the time. Down here on this last one is essentially what I'm calling big kids films. So all of the stuff I watched in the 80s, from Cocoon through to War Games, all that kind of stuff is down here. Arguably the most impressive shelves in this room, and my personal favorite, is the horror shelves. This has been at the moment transformed into Euro horror, and then modern, then 80s horror, and then modern Blu-ray horror and classic horror. Mostly all Blu-rays, but there's some DVDs as well. It starts up here with box sets that I've got together, some of the Giallo ones from Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow. Lots of Euro crime, Euro horror, lots of director collections there from Arrow. Got some Indicator box sets, got some imprint box sets. I have all the Vestron titles at the moment connected up there. And above that, I've got all of the Unearthed Films Blu-rays and a few similar theme kind of deals there on the end. And a few more box sets, just all chucked together here at the top. Vinegar Syndrome and all kinds of other labels. More Arrow, more Severin, some Synapse. Yeah, so it starts with box sets. Now, this is when things got interesting for me when I was redoing these shelves. I wanted to keep all of my Euro horror separate from American horror or modern horror, direct-to-video stuff. It was just making more sense to me, and I spent a lot of the time watching Euro films, and one of the catalysts for this was, how do I delineate between a Giallo and a Euro crime? Or this director has done Euro horror, but he's also done spaghetti western. To me, it's all one and the same, and it made sense to go together. So we start here with my Argento films and a few related titles there on top. We move into Lucio Fulci films. Quite happy with how these collections are coming along. You'll see things that are sideways on top that are not always related, but if I have two or more of something, then I will make a little mini collection, so these two obviously make sense being together. We move on to the Mario Bava films, quite a lot of those. Again, got some of the Synapse Steelbooks there on top, they made sense to go together. My Bruno Mattei collection, absolutely love this director, and yeah, quite a lot of his films. I'm just still in shock and awe at the quantity on Blu-ray now. Mixed in with some of the Fragrasso films, they doubled up, they work together quite frequently. Diodato's titles, we go on to Lenzi, who has quite the collection over here. Sergio Martino, Lamberto Bava, he's got enough to have a collection. Move on to the next shelf here. Got Luigi Cozzi's got a little small collection here, because I definitely had to have Contamination up here in its appropriate collection. And this selection here from Joe D'Amato has definitely been growing a lot this year. I've definitely been getting filthier with my tastes, and there is a lot of horrible looking things in here, but they're all fantastic. So yeah, quite a lot of Joe D'Amato films. I'm always looking for more. Jess Franco, of course, you have a Franco collection. This is another section that I intend on working on over the year. There's a lot of Blu-rays that were put out by Redemption. I would like to retroactively pick up Margaretti, Antonio Margaretti. I have quite a collection here. And you may have seen as you're going through some of these shelves going, hang on, that film's not on Blu-ray. Well, as I said, I like to make my own hobby Blu-rays for my own enjoyment, and some of these, like Hunters of the Golden Cobra, this double I made of Ark of the Sun God, Jungle Raiders. You know where to look. There are HD prints floating around that have been broadcast, and it's not hard to make a Blu-ray, and I kind of like doing it. And that will do until official releases come out, at which point I then swap out and get an official release. Example, something like this, Indio double feature. The first film here is upscaled from the LaserDisc and looks really quite good. But part 2, yes, there is a HD print floating around that looks fantastic. Not too sure what streaming service that came from, but I just make these for my own enjoyment, and as I said, when I can replace them with an official one, I will. Castellari films, got quite a few there, and then we hit this just general Euro A to Z. For the moment, I've got the Mondos put together. That may change when I can be bothered, but at the moment that's where they are. Same with Shameless. I've got some of these Bounty spaghetti westerns together. And then it's just generally A to Z of Euro DVD. And then we move on to repeating it again in Blu-ray with the Mondo Blu-rays. And then moving on to Euro horror and Euro crime and spaghetti western kind of stuff that I don't have enough of one particular director to have a little section. So then we move on to 70s and 80s horror, but this particularly means non-European, so generally American horror, the stuff that most people would know more immediately. You've got your April Fool's Day in here, and you've got your Beast Within and all that kind of good stuff. That's all in here. And I've got a bunch of them that are, I've got little mini collections here. Maniac, Dead and Buried, Silent Night, Deadly Night 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5 now. We've got The Watchers 2 and 3. I don't have part 1, which is somewhat annoying me. Very hard to find that DVD. The Night of the Demons series. I've got the Blood trilogy and Herschel Gordon Lewis, the H.G. Lewis stuff there. I never did get the big fancy box sets from Arrow. I was quite happy with those. There's obviously your Extro films. Where is Extro 2 on Blu-ray? The world needs it, and I can get rid of this silly double pack. And then we go on down there for quite some time till we get to this little miniature section here for Troma and Full Moon I've put together. And then over here I've got some Ozploitation films, which are kind of hilariously mixed in with very much non-Ozploitation films. The Jan Svankmajer, I think, the Polish director, I think, just because they could fit in. Down here we get into Hammer Horror, you can see there by the label. And it's all Hammer Horror and related things like Amicus and that kind of stuff. And then general classic horror movies. I do like to keep your 50s and 60s and that kind of stuff separate. Makes more sense to me. And then from this point onwards to the end is all modern horror on Blu-ray. So more indie, well, not so much indie, they'd be in the other tubs, but I guess more glossy productions, bigger things, theatrical, or just stuff that's not just one man with a camera, but it's modern and it's on Blu-ray. It's down here. So I've got my amazing Expendables 2 signed poster. It's signed by 3 of the stars, including Dolph Lundgren. And that one sits there in the corner of the garage at the front here, and has a bunch of sort of big franchise box sets in front of it. So all the Hellraiser, all the Universal Horror, Child's Play, the Halloween box sets, the Friday the 13th. Having a bit of a monolith here on top of one of the speakers next to the television. I am still using a Panasonic Plasma. It's a 2012 plasma screen. I don't particularly do 4K. I have a player that can do it, but it will obviously downscale it to 1080p. And that is because, as you can see, this is the maximum size I can fit in here. This is a 46-inch TV, and as you'll see in a minute, the distance I sit from it is pretty close, so I don't have a need for an 80-inch 4K capable TV in this room. This is good. The reason also it's good, one, plasma, I think the blacks look fantastic, and two, it's of a period when it still has analog inputs, so I can actually put in my other hardware down here. So we've got the Oppo Blu-ray player, which is my primary player. I've got this new Panasonic one I got at the charity shop incredibly cheaply. It's a 4K player, but it's also a HD TV tuner, so I use that for free-to-air broadcast reception. This is a dedicated VCD player, which I use obviously for the VCDs. A Panasonic VCR below that, a Pioneer LaserDisc player, and some old consoles, PS2 and the original Xbox, down there on the floor. And I still have my VHS carousel, so this one I dragged from the last house to this one. I've had it for a good 10 years now, and it still makes that delightful squeak when you turn the carousel around. Eventually, I'm almost there. My entirety of Australian VHS, or at least big box tapes, there's a few Euro things in here, some Dutch stuff. This will all be represented here, because it is getting to the point now where everything is coming out on DVD and Blu-ray. Even this Fireback I can now replace, as I have a German DVD on the way. And we're getting some ridiculous Blu-rays coming out. If I continue... Oh, I love that sound. If you've been paying attention, Special Silences, absolutely crazy Indonesian film from director Arizal. An absolute example of something I would think never getting an upgrade. Mondo Macabro has secured the rights and have already shown screen grabs from their glorious Blu-ray that was coming out soon. I cannot believe we're in a world where Special Silences exists on Blu-ray, which can only mean that we're going to get something like brutal Sorcery at some point, you know, so one day. And next to the VHS carousel is another one of those new shelves, and this one is chock full of those tubs. So all the stuff that can't fit on normal shelves goes in here, and again, I've been quite happy with how this has worked out. So Kung Fu films I have up here. Mostly these ones are, you know, like your dub dollar store kind of DVDs. There's quite a lot of those in there. Below that we have all my comedy stuff, which I've used some pretty amusing meme imagery to represent comedy. So yeah, all the comedy films, they're all in there, DVD and Blu-ray. This sextuplet, I think is the word, is all new horror on DVDs. So if you take a look, if I can do this one-handed, just about, all A to Z of, you know, your modern type things. So some stuff that is some new incoming things I haven't got to. They're out on here on the front. This one's just coming today. So, you know, you get the idea. It's all modern, but not particularly super independent horror. Some of it will be, but it's not what I internally call indie horror. It's not, you know, super strong gore film by that kind of director or anything like that. Below that we have the bookshelf. Got quite a lot of good movie-themed books and magazines here. I do enjoy having a read sometimes in here. And below that we have the drama and the regular sci-fi DVDs, so the stuff that's not Sci-Fi Channel, but just regular science fiction films that do not have a Blu-ray yet. Well, if you take a look in this wicker basket, what are we going to find? LaserDiscs! They need their own collection, and well, I've got quite a few. Again, I don't buy too many these days, mainly because in Australia buying anything interesting on LaserDisc is very challenging. I watch the American LaserDisc Facebook groups, and you know, the things like this, your B action films, they never show up in this country. I've got to import, and LaserDiscs importing to Australia, that is incredibly hard and very expensive, so it doesn't happen very often. I have got quite a decent collection here of Hong Kong LaserDiscs, and yeah, my favorite one, Tough Beauty and the Sloppy Slop. What a fantastic title that one is. So excuse the foot shot, but I had to show off my donut pillow, which I use for sitting here watching TV. Pretty bloody amazing. Santa gave me this one for Christmas. I suppose I'm meant to use it as a head pillow, but oh man, makes a great footrest. And here is the throne I was just sitting in. It's incredibly comfortable. About 30-year-old couch I've inherited from my parents. It no longer does the reclining thing anymore, so that's why I've got the donut footstool thing, but yeah, you can take it from my cold dead hands. It's amazingly comfortable. And behind the couch we have the Hong Kong and general Asian section for films. A lot of box sets there at the top, a lot of Eastern Eye and a lot of the new 88 films box sets. If we get a little bit closer here, you'll see a lot of the new Eureka and 88 films collections, a lot of the Jackie Chan, Shaw Brothers, you can see there, then onto the IVL Shaw Brothers DVDs, some more modern Asian horror films and other genre films there on Blu-ray. Eastern Eye DVDs, I've been through those in a separate video before. And as we go down behind here, and yes, I do have to move the couch out to get to this stuff, we have Fortune Star DVDs, we've got Hong Kong Legends, and then just general A to Z of lots of good Hong Kong face-kicking films. And on the other side here, starting with the film reel from 20th Century Fox that I was given by my brother, hanging on the wall. And then we go into the A to Z of action films. You can see some collections there and box sets on the top. But then we move into the action stars by basically how I weight them, starting with my number one favorite, Arnold Schwarzenegger there. Moving into Stallone, you can see little labels I've got there on the side. Jean-Claude Van Damme, the ridiculously awesome Dolph Lundgren films. Got all of those. The complete Steven Seagal. Yes, sometimes he's quite painful, but he is always amusing. Scott Adkins, who is constantly making really good fun films, absolutely one of the best action stars at the moment. And then it just goes on to other action stars. Don the Dragon Wilson, Cynthia Rothrock's in here. It's yeah, quite the eclectic bunch. This shelf here is all the science fiction Blu-rays, so again, not the Sci-Fi channel stuff, but bigger pictures and stuff that's on Blu-ray. So we've got a few of the imprint titles here at the top, The War of the Worlds and the like, and then just A to Z science fiction Blu-rays. Got a few collections down here, so you've got your fantasy included as well, Lord of the Rings, the modern Star Trek films, and then through to things like Skyline, RoboCop series. When we get down here, I've got sort of loose groupings here of sort of classic type science fiction films, you know, At the Earth's Core and all that kind of good stuff. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea goes again into Blu-ray, so you know, the more 50s, 60s kind of science fiction, you know, looking at the moon in wonder kind of stuff. And down the bottom here, some continuation of that. There's a lot of bigger creature feature kind of films in here. We've got sword and sorcery films, and then we've got some dragon films there on the end. So as you can see, it's a pretty well stocked room of Blu-rays, DVDs, metal CD and vinyl. I'm quite happy with how this room is constantly being upgraded and maintained. Everybody seems to enjoy coming in here and reliving a bit of a video store or just perusing my records, so it's really nice to have this space to myself to be able to sit here and look at my Sci-Fi channel DVDs while I work. And I think that pretty much does it. This is my man cave, and I hope you enjoyed the tour. Lots of Blu-rays, lots of films, lots of music, lots of fun posters. So yeah, if you liked this one, please like, subscribe, check out this thing, and check out this thing. I'll see you next time.